Hi there, and welcome to this little showcase of Niagara and the mass entity system in Unreal Engine. If you don't know what that is, Niagara is the particle system in Unreal Engine, and mass entity is the entity component system, which is a architecture for really fast computations on the CPU. And what I'm doing with this is I am trying to make, I guess, a plugin for RTS games that supports tons and tons and tons of characters. Now we've only got 250 on the screen, and you might have seen my video previously where I had something like 100,000 at a time, and they were all running into a single point and standing on top of each other. That didn't have any collision or anything, so this is just a bit of an update for that one. So we do have collision now, and we also have different unit types. These are all, once again, being rendered by a single Niagara system. In fact, in a single Niagara emitter, each one of them. All their animations are being played on the material itself with vertex animation textures. There's no like skeletal meshes here. These are all static meshes animated with bone style vertex animation textures. I'm going to show you what those look like in here. So basically the animation data is baked into the texture. It's a pretty common technique for doing animations on the GPU, and it's actually a static mesh, and the material is playing those animations. So each one of these characters, let's pump this up to a little higher. That was my ping, not yours. Sorry about that. And let's put it at, say, like 1,000. So all these characters are getting rendered. They all have their own individual animation state machines. They are not sharing animations. They all have their own individual frames. I can actually command them by clicking. Right now, I can only command them all. But yeah, so that is what's happening there. The mass entity system is controlling the animation state machines. Now, these are not animation blueprints like an Unreal Engine. When you need to use the mass entity system for stuff, you kind of have to do a lot of that yourself. You can't use a lot of the object-oriented programming things like animation blueprints or actors or anything like that. So the mass entity component system is being used for all logic, movement logic, collision, and animations right now, and also the commands that I'm giving to these guys. And I'll use it for a lot more. I'm using Niagara exclusively for rendering and rendering the animations on these static meshes. So yeah, each one's a particle. Each one has their own brain. There's no sharing. There's no bullshit stuff going on. Yeah. Okay, so I guess, so why didn't I just do this all in Niagara? Just, do all the logic in Niagara. There have been like demos of that for Unreal Engine, and it is an option, but I kind of decided against it. I started out doing that, having the animations being controlled on Niagara, but I just found it just becomes convoluted so quickly, and the more complex it becomes, the harder it is to do things. And I want to be able to support like full-on RTS style logic, and I just thought it would be a pain in the butt, really, to do that all in Niagara. Entity component system is very fast, right? Mass is very fast if used correctly, so why not spread the load? I'm just going to get all the rendering done on the GPU and then use the CPU to do the logic with mass, and that will work very fast. So that's what I've chosen to do. What are the challenges with that? Well, mass is a steep learning curve. It was made for Fortnite originally. I can't remember like what part, but that's what it was made for. Pretty much everything in Unreal is like that. And then they made a demo with that Matrix demo, which is very much like a GTA style. Let's pump this up to 5,000. It's like a GTA style game where there's lots of pedestrians and cars going by. So the mass entity system is being used to render the pedestrians and the cars. Now, while that's all well and good, in an RTS game, you want to render tons and tons of these units at once, top down. And I just found that the visualizations that used instance static meshes wouldn't really do what I wanted and have as much control. So that's why I'm using Niagara for I think that's my opinion at least. But yeah, you can see they're all doing pretty well. We're still above 60 FPS for now. But yeah. Now, the challenge is that, okay, so because of that, all the built-in fragments and processes are sort of based around that GTA-style game where you have pedestrians and vehicles. Even the navigation is based on lanes and stuff, and it's just not good for an RTS game. So I basically had to create all my mass processes myself, customize everything. I ended up just throwing it all out the window. I'm just doing everything myself because it's almost unsalvageable that's not a bad thing. Like, it's good for what it's made for, but it's not really usable for an RTS. So I'm purely using the framework, and everything else is custom, my own processes and stuff like that. And that brings a lot of steep learning curves. As soon as you want to do something that's very different to, you have to make your own custom thing. And things like character interactions, like the collisions here, and the commands that I'm giving are a pain to do. And there's just not much documentation. So maybe, after a while I'll put some stuff out there, because there really could be more documentation. And it's not hard. It's just you don't know what to do because there's no documentation. So you end up going through all the source code, ChatGPT helping with that a bit. But even like ChatGPT certainly can't write this for you. It struggles a lot. But you can it helps you to dig into the code and figure out what might be the thing you should call. But anyway, that aside, yeah, I guess, is it worth it with all that pain? Well, yeah, pretty much it is worth it, because you cannot do this with actors. Good luck. Especially if they're gonna, every single one of these is a skeletal mesh. No, you can't do it. It's just not possible. Especially if we go up to like 100,000 units at some point. Right now, I kind of can't go past 5,000 because my collision is a little bit inefficient. I slapped in an octree instead of making my own sort of spatial partitioning system, cell system. The reason for that is I just wanted to get it working. But so for now, it's a bit CPU locked at this point, purely because of the collision. But that's something I got to work on. Yeah. Obviously, so that's kind of what I'm doing. I'll probably post updates about this as we go. I just find it fascinating, really, having so many units on the screen. And to make it more complex, I want to kind of get all the kind of features you would have in an RTS or a tower defense game and all that, so that it can just work easy without all the hassle. The immediate next steps, is things like selecting just some units and commanding them. Also having teams, so I can't command like enemy units. The performance improvements to the spatial partitioning and the collision, as I mentioned. Rotation smoothing, so these guys don't spin around like this. That's kind of funny. I do need to do that. That's another thing. Each unit here, while they are the same archetype in the mass entity system, they have all their own data, so you can see they've got their own collisions and different speeds. You'll notice these purple ones are so faster. That's why they get stuck in the middle. I'll replay it and you'll see. Rotation smoothing, I want to add more steering behaviors like evasion and avoidance. Right now it's purely move to point and resolve collisions. I also want to do a flow map. So actually I have a flow map plugin that I am working on to go with this. Let me just turn on the debugging to show you that. Draw cells. Yeah, okay. There you go. There's my flow map that's been generated. They're not using it. They're purely running to a point. But this is just like, I want them to read from this flow map instead of just running to the point. So that's the next thing. Static units like buildings and stuff, all that. This debug drawing is tanking my performance. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff I want to do. I'll keep posting updates. And if you find this interesting, well, good for you. I'll see you next time.